Welcome to Late Night Health. This is a casual conversation between Dr. Greg Celaya, a functional medicine specialist, and me, Mark Alyn. I'm the host of Late Night Health, and you can join us here each week as we discuss a wide variety of topics. Today's is going to blow your mind. It's the topic of weight loss. Dr. Celaya, everybody wants to drop pounds. I haven't met anybody who says, give me something to make me fatter. I need to gain weight.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, those people are far and few between. Hey, let me ask you a question. How would you classify or vocalize my appearance?
Your appearance?
Yeah, my appearance.
You're a good-looking tall guy and well proportioned.
Okay. And what about weight?
I don't know how much, but you don't look fat or overweight.
All right. Well, I work with a lot of people with weight loss, and it seems to be an incidental thing, meaning we're working with other things and weight loss just happens. But a lot of people want to know, how can I talk about weight loss? Well, when I was a kid, I was obese. In fact, my mom would always take me to the Husky department to buy clothes.
Oh, I was just down the aisle in the slim department.
Yeah, there you go. And so I remember.
She would say, well, I'm sorry. She would say, stick out your tummy so that your pants will stay up.
Yeah. Well, I didn't have that problem. Mine was the exact opposite. And I remember my parents they said, you know what, we have to get this kid exercising. And they signed me up for YMCA. And we were in a new team, and new teams don't have jerseys. So we had to wait for jerseys to show up, right? Because you didn't have them.
Right.
But it didn't stop the games from occurring, like basketball and other types of games. And so we would show up just in regular street clothes. And the solution was always the same. It was like, well, you guys don't have jerseys. Why don't you guys just be skins? And being a fat guy, it would terrify me. I remember because, I was not just a little overweight, I was obese. And it got to the point where I remember playing basketball. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but I'm running up and down the court and I'm just bouncing all over the place. I am so embarrassed. It was a train wreck I was a young boy. And at one point, I finally realized, I said, that's it. That's it. It's never going to happen again. I'm going to fix this problem. I am embarrassed just to even be walking around with shirts on, not to mention shirts off. And so it got to the point where I decided to do something, and I did something. And I'm anal on it at this point because I was obese.
Because I work in TV and I'm on camera, I don't think I'm overweight. I have gained weight, especially in my midsection, and it does embarrass me as well. And I'm not a little boy anymore, maybe a little man. But were you athletic, even though you were overweight?
No, I wasn't. My parents were gone from 7 a.m. till 9 o'clock at night, and I pretty much had to raise myself. And my days consisted of going to the grocery store, the liquor store with my friends and buying, you remember those Laurel Scudder's potato chip bags that had 2 in them? They had the orange and the red and the whatever the horizontal bars. Yeah, I would get that and a container of sour cream, and I would eat that in one sitting.
Oh my.
So
how old were you?
Young, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Oh my.
And this was part of my, and not only that, you go and you get ding dongs and snowballs and all the rest of that stuff and apple pies. And, I did what I wanted to do because I didn't have supervision. So when it came to doing the sports, it wasn't something that I had done on a regular basis. And my parents had good intention, but the problem was I was really obese, and doing the skins thing just really made a problem for me. So at that point, I decided that I am going to do something about it, and I did. And I got kind of anal about it, not necessarily ill, meaning, taking it overboard. But for example, still to this day, I step on the scale today, all right? I also look in the mirror when I'm naked every single day. I want to make sure I understand what my day is going to look like with food. And it's really not that big a deal because it's been so consistent and over time. And if you happen to have a couple of problems with pounds, it's an easy solution. Whereas if you don't weigh yourself for a week or 2 weeks or a month, once you have a problem, it becomes unmanageable.
I get on a scale occasionally. Uh, we don't own one that works accurately, and it won't be replaced because it's a family heirloom.
Oh, well, the ones that you should be using are the body composition scales. You know, they're as long as you're using the same scale all the time, you're going to be okay. If you change scales all the time, I mean, they have a lot of margin of error, but if you're using the same scale all the time, it's pretty accurate to that scale. And so you want to see where you're at, right? Because you're going to gain and lose muscle mass, water weight, and so on. You want to know where you're at. And some people may choose not to do it every day. I do it every day, so I understand what's happening and I can make quick choices and changes.
So if you've dropped a couple pounds, you could indulge a little bit more if you wanted to?
Absolutely. Sure.
Wow. The word diet comes to mind, of course, when we talk about weight loss. It's a word that is a multi-billion-dollar industry in itself, with prepared meals, shakes, variety of solutions. How do you feel about the word diet? Is that something we should do to drop those unhealthy pounds?
Well, you know, before we start going into diet, you know, people have a bad idea as far as what the word diet is. But we look at a lot of different things, and one of them is inflammatory issues. So, for example, we have to reduce toxins. We have metals. We have different soaps that have toxins in them. We have mold. We have plastics, pesticides, phthalates, bisphenol A. There's so many toxins we're exposed to that can make it so we don't lose weight, so our body doesn't work efficiently. We also have thyroid problems, which are huge, and we have to do the right labs. And most doctors may not necessarily do the right labs. They do just a few simple things, and they don't take into account autoimmunity. They don't take into account how conversion happens from inactive to active thyroid hormone. You also have to look at insulin and sex hormones, really important to understanding weight and weight gain. Medications are another one. Clean water, really important. You have nutritional imbalances, and exercise is extremely important, but sometimes over-exercise stimulates cortisol, which can become a problem.
I know people who've said, I'm big boned. I know people who say, I have a thyroid problem or I have a slow metabolism. And when you question them a little further, they've never been tested. And I know you're big on science and testing. Is this something that you find common as well?
Yeah, it is. It is common. And, you know, the whole big bone thing, that's where your body composition scale comes in because it's going to tell you. The other people that have a slow thyroid or this or that, there's solutions for that. You don't have to keep having a slow thyroid. So, for example, there's a thyroid that's measured, and this is not the only thyroid hormone we're looking at, but it comes from the brain to the thyroid, and it tells the thyroid to either speed up or slow down. Well, when we look at that level, the normal values are from 0.4 to 4.5. Those numbers are way, way too big. I like to see numbers around 1. And I see so many people that come in with that in addition to other thyroid markers becoming a problem. And most doctors just blow it off, or they don't look at conversion from the inactive to the active thyroid hormone. And you'll never see it on some of the tests they run. So it's really important to make sure to get a good overall true understanding of thyroid health, because the thyroid can make or break you.
And the thyroid does control your body weight. Is that the apostat, the weight stat, if you will, of the body?
Sure. It slows and speeds up everything. So if you increase your metabolism, you're going to gain or lose more weight because you're consuming more energy.
Isn't that what we should be doing?
What's that?
We should be working out, doing some form of exercise to burn calories. Or am I wrong and old-fashioned in that approach?
No, you're absolutely right. But you end up with the toxins, and you want to talk about food. There's so many things we can talk about. First off, you have to have a diet of real food. You go into the grocery store, and most of this food that's in the store is manufactured. It's not normal food. It's stuff that man has made, and we've kind of tainted. We've kind of created a problem with our human bodies. Look what's happened, and we've talked about this so many times over the last 30, 40 years. People are a train wreck.
They are. And we are an obese society where, excuse me, we are an obese society with a very high percentage of people not only overweight by a few pounds, but considered medically obese, which is, I don't know, what is it, 30% over where they're supposed to be?
The numbers are big, but we don't see a lot of these problems in some of the underdeveloped countries because they're eating real food. They can't afford all this manufactured foods. That we've talked about sugar before, but the average American is into it for about 150 pounds of sugar a year. I know I don't eat mine. I don't know if you eat yours, and I know my whole family doesn't. So somebody's eating my stuff too.
I recently saw your son, and he's built like you, tall, lanky. Maybe because he's a little bit younger, he's also very, very muscular as well. What about rice? In some underdeveloped countries, rice is a staple, and it's something I don't eat white rice very much at all.
Well, rice is good and bad. You always want to do things in moderation. And, some of the brown rice has the fiber and has toxins in the fiber. So rice needs to be done moderately, right? In moderation, just like everything else. But in addition to sugars, right, you also have food sensitivities. You've got gluten, you've got dairy. We also have to reduce inflammation. And one of the big problems that we see is that everybody's eating omega-6 fats. And omega-6 fats can be inflammatory. And so we want to make sure to try and offset them with omega-3 fats or consume more omega-3 fats. You also want to stay away from veggie oils because they can oxidize, which can create inflammation. You want healthy gut foods that can help your microbiome. So fermented
probiotics.
Foods. Yeah, probiotics is a good one in addition to, fermented foods, even raw foods. And some people, like for my example, myself, I like to make sure that I'm having the correct microbiome on the food I'm eating, and I don't sit there and scrub it. In fact, most of the time, I barely even wash it if it is organic. If it's full of dirt, another story. But for example, let's say we juice a carrot, I'll just run it under water to get the dirt off, but I want to get that microbiome that's in that carrot or on the carrot skin into my system.
But every now and then we hear about outbreaks of one kind of bacteria or another because somebody handling that carrot either was sick or got sick.
Yeah, and that's true.
Scrubbing that carrot?
And that's true. Well, I've never scrubbed anything, and neither has my family. Never, ever have we been sick. I imagine there's a first time, but sure, it's possible. It's possible. The other thing is sleep. You want to make sure that you have proper sleep, and you want to have that circadian rhythm healthy because it controls cortisol, which can control inflammation.
Interesting. I think the standard now is about 7 hours recommended a night.
Yeah, and it's not only how much you get, but it's when you get it. It's the timing. And not only that, in fact, I just did a video on the timing of food. So the timing of when you eat is important as how much you eat. So if you eat more in the morning and don't eat more at night, you'll find yourself more health as far as weight is concerned. Stress is another big one. Stress is huge, and everybody knows that you can stress eat, right? So also you want to plan meals. You want to avoid trigger foods and trigger places, meaning if you're eating at a place that's under high stress, a lot of noise, you're not going to be able to easily consume your food. That can cause problems.
A lot of restaurants, especially nicer restaurants today, have an ambiance, an atmosphere of lot of noise. It's almost impossible to hear people at your own table when you're speaking.
Well, yeah. Remember, we went to that wonderful restaurant not too long ago, and
Right.
the food was great, but we could barely hear each other when we're talking, and it makes for a stressful environment and can actually help increase your weight, right? Because of the stressful type of scenario.
And in fact, the a couple of times we've been eating either vegetarian, vegan, or very healthy meats.
Sure.
Which is an unusual combination, but we try everything.
Right.
Moderation.
And you also want to avoid spontaneous eating, and that one's hard, right? It's like, for example, you walk past a bag of chocolate chips and you have to break them open and eat them. So if you can, you want to try and limit those exposures. Intermittent fasting, which we've talked about before, is great for weight loss, and keto on a short to moderate term basis can make a big difference as well.
The keto diet or the keto plan, that's a lot of protein and specialized carbs.
It's mainly fat. So we're
Fats.
consuming a lot of fat. And, one of the most common things that I see people doing is not only eating too many carbs, but they're tanking up on proteins, thinking that they're healthy. But proteins turn right to sugar, which go right to fat. So you have to be careful with proteins. You don't have a storage form of proteins other than what's in your muscle, and you're not going to store protein, so to speak, in your muscle in excess of what you need.
I'm sorry, if I eat a chicken breast, it turns into sugar?
If you're over consuming, yes, it does. So it increases insulin, which increases inflammation, which can lead to weight gain in addition to the increase in sugar formation.
If we can go back to when you were a little boy of 7 or 8, which is just a few years ago, did you have cellular inflammation at that time? Obviously, we didn't talk about it then. You were a kid, but could that have been part of the problem?
Well, it could have been, but it was more like my lifestyle, right? My parents got home at 9 o'clock, and my mom cooked dinner at 9 o'clock. And now, mind you, the dinner was great. Don't get me wrong, but the whole day I'm on my own, and I'm eating whatever I well pleased I was going to eat, and a lot of chips, a lot of junk, because I could. Nobody was stopping me. My parents would get good food to put in the refrigerator. I didn't do it. I didn't have to. I could move on and do something else.
Got it.
So, but the big problem is that when you do it when you're young, you have a propensity to have that weight issue the rest of your life. That's why with my kids, we've made sure that their diet has been pristine. And you look at my son, and he's in great shape. He doesn't work too hard at it because he doesn't have to. My daughter is really in great shape as well. And she is always eating, but she's eating the right foods. And she doesn't have a lot of fat on her. In fact, you end up with a lot more fat when you're young. You have a lot more problems when you're older. So, for example, with myself, that's why I step on a scale every day and I watch it like a hawk, because I never want to get back to that place where I have to think about buying clothes in different places. In fact, my waist size is the same or even smaller as when I was young, an adult, a young adult.
High school?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Well, when I was in high school and when I was graduated college and then when I got married, I was all the same weight. I unfortunately can't say that I still am. However, in defense of my 118 pounds, that may have been too small, too light, because I was super skinny. And people just didn't told me that I was too thin.
Yeah, and you can always take things too far, like we talk about moderation, but there's so much to do with weight loss, and usually weight loss is an incidental thing to my working with a patient. It's rare that I just work with somebody to lose weight because they're thinking calories in, calories out, and it may not be that simple. If they're unhealthy, they may maintain weight. And the older you get, the harder it is to lose weight because of hormonal imbalances and toxins build up in the system, et cetera. So you have to really look at everything involved to be able to understand weight. And it is incidental. When we start getting people healthy, they start losing weight.
And so a healthy lifestyle helps to maintain a proper weight.
Exactly. But, you have to break a lot of habits. Just like I had to break a lot of habits. I had to break the habit of eating chips, 24/7. Who doesn't love chips? In fact, I still love chips, and I could live every meal off of chips, but I don't, because I know better. I know what it's going to do at that point in time when I decide to go down that path.
What about French fries? Did you like French fries as a kid?
Yeah, we grew up next to one of the McDonald's, with the real arches on the outside, and you didn't have inside seating, that kind of stuff. And who doesn't love McDonald's French fries? And but they're junk, right? They're not healthy for you. And usually they're using a lot of vegetable oils, and you don't know when that oil is being changed. And what it does is it tends to oxidize because you're heating it all the time. And that becomes inflammatory in your body. So stay away from fried foods. And if you are going to have some type of fried foods, usually you're going to fry it in a saturated oil that's not going to oxidize, and it makes it better. Or like, for example, sweet potato fries. So we'll slice sweet potatoes very thin. We'll bake them. And you put nice, sea salt or whatever kind of wonderful seasoning on it. And when you take them out, they're fantastic.
What about adding olive oil to that, or does that olive oil oxidize?
It depends what type of temperature you're going to be cooking at. If it's 150 plus, olive oil will oxidize. You can use coconut oil or MCT oil, which is really good, or even avocado oil. And I like the taste of avocado oil. I mean, I don't think it has too much of a taste, but a little bit. And so you can spread that on top at the same time before you even cook it. And that gives you a nice, rich flavor, which is great for you as well.
And coconut oil would give it a nice sweetness.
Yeah.
Even more than the sweet potato itself.
Yeah, I love coconut oil. It's great.
Well, we are out of time, Dr. Celaya. I appreciate your time today. If you would like a free, let me repeat that, a free 15-minute consultation with Dr. Celaya, go to drcelaya.com. That's drcelaya.com. drcelaya.com. Look around. There are a lot of videos, there's some audios, and there are a lot of articles for you all about health and how to maintain great, positive thinking and health at drcelaya.com. And of course, he's offering you a free 15-minute consultation to kind of jumpstart your own health cycle. Again, Dr. Celaya, thank you very much for joining us here at Late Night Health.
Hey, thanks, Mark. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye, everybody. Join me at latenighthealth.com.